Okay, so an e-commerce business, E stands for electronic, so meaning over the internet. It's an e-commerce business, and we'll go over some e-commerce models and then how to start a business. Okay, so what is e-commerce? Well, the definition of e-commerce is commercial transactions conducted electronically on the internet. So here's, a laptop with a shopping cart. You've probably all shopped online at some point. Okay. So yeah, you have to pay for what you're shopping for, and then things get delivered to you. Do you guys know who this is?
The owner of Amazon.
Yeah. So when I used to teach operating systems class, I still teach it, but when Bill Gates used to be the richest person in the world, I would start off my operating systems class by telling everybody the richest person in the world created an operating system, the Windows operating system. But he's no longer the richest person in the world. Now this guy is, and he's an e-commerce guy, so created, Amazon.com. So, and just a little, this is kind of an interesting side story on him. There's a famous electronic investor named D.E. Shaw. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. So has a trading company in Manhattan. Very, very rich person. So he was a professor at Columbia University, and he was on track to be a tenured professor. And Columbia turned him down, wouldn't let him be a professor. So he started his own company. Now he's like, huge billionaire. And so one of the best things that ever happened to him was Columbia let him go. Right? So then he went and started his own company. So it's, I forget what the name is, D.E. Shaw, it's in his name, D.E., the first letter D, middle initial E, and then Shaw, S-H-A-W. But Jeff Bezos worked for D.E. Shaw, and then decided he wanted to branch out on his own to start selling books over the internet. Amazon was originally a company that sold books over the internet. And he asked the guy, D.E. Shaw, would you like to, invest in me? And then he said, no, this doesn't sound like a good idea. So I let him go. And now he's the richest guy in the world. So the story is, these places let really good people go when they think their ideas are not good. So don't ever, if you have an idea and someone, famous tells you it's not a good idea, don't give up. It still might end up being a good idea. So, okay. So there's different models for businesses, e-commerce business. Some are, and they're famous, business to customer, business to business, customer to customer, and customer to business. And they usually call them, B2C and B2B and C2C. So business to business is like when a business sells goods or service to an individual person. So like, you could log in and buy a Louis Vuitton bag online, right? You're a customer, you log into a store and buy something online. Buying it directly from the seller. Business to business is when a business sells goods or services to another business. For example, here at this university, we have WebCampus, which is sold to many universities. You go to another university, many of them will have WebCampus. So that's a software product that business has sold to our university. I'm kind of considering our university as a business. But it's not selling it directly to each student, it's selling it as a package to the university, and then everyone who's at the university uses it. Customer to customer is when the customer sells a good or service to another customer. So that would be something like Craigslist or eBay or popular websites where you're buying a product from individual people. You're not buying from a store. Somebody has a piano to sell, they put it on eBay, then you come along, you need a piano, you buy it from them. And you're using eBay as a platform for doing that. And then customer to business, the last one is when the customer sells their own products or services to a business or an organization. For example, this was a student at Columbia University, created a company called Shutterstock, which is a bunch of images, right? So let's say you needed a picture. Let's say you're making a brochure, and you wanted a picture of 4 people sitting in a boardroom discussing a math problem on the blackboard. You could Google that, and they'll have a bunch of pictures, and you buy one, let's say for $1 or so. And so who's supplying the pictures? Well, the pictures are supplied by private people who are photographers. They're just taking pictures, hoping someone will buy them. And they put them on the website, and hopefully someone buys them. So, like, so for example, a photographer could be selling images to a business like Shutterstock, and then customers can go in and buy it. Off of that. Okay, so some of the benefits of e-commerce is global markets, right? So if you were to open a store here in town, only people who live in town could walk in and buy things. But if you put it on the internet, anyone in the world could buy it. The availability is all the time, 24/7, 365 days a year, available all the time. Reduction in cost because you don't have to run a store and pay rent and electric bills and that kind of. Inventory management is easy. Now, if you start collecting data, and maybe we'll cover later in the course some data science, how to collect data about people. You can have, your customers log in, but if you know things like how old they are, what they've bought in the past, then out of your inventory of stuff you want to sell, you could present to them things that people like them generally buy. So it's more like, you could have a targeted marketing. You can tell them, I think you would like this, or you bought this product in the past, people who bought this product also buy this product. So you could do things like that where you can't really do that in a store. You wouldn't have your salespeople see a customer walk in and go, hey, last week you bought this, you might like this. They're not going to do that. So, and you could also work from anywhere. You don't have to say, what's a good town to open up another store? You could just work from anywhere. So, okay. So then how to start an e-commerce business. You want to choose and sourcing of a product, so you have to actually sell what product you want to sell and where you're going to get it from. If you decide you want to sell socks on the internet, okay, that's fine. But you have to see, is there a big market for socks? But number two, you have to find a supplier if you can't supply them yourself. So conducting the research and planning ahead are things you have to do. Getting your brand right, so you want to have a brand name, you got to make sure nobody else has the same brand name. You might want to register your brand name, which includes like company names and logos. You could make hats and t-shirts and that kind of stuff. And then decide how you will sell. So would you want to build your platform from scratch? Do you want to create your own website with your own app? Or do you want to use ones that are out there that you could just join on to, like Amazon.com, for example. You could just start selling on their site. They're going to take a fee, but they'll provide the search engine and everything you need for it. So if you do your own, you then have control over the data of the people who logged in. So for example, if you're selling something on Amazon.com, a customer logs in, they're not a customer of yours, they're a customer of Amazon. They're buying something, they're searching all the sellers on Amazon for something, and Amazon might steer them to you, but they don't become a customer of yours, they become a customer of Amazon. But if they're logging into your website, you can then collect data on what they've purchased in the past and start marketing products that you sell back to them. Okay. So that's one of the things, the data science, which is the data, all the data about your customers that might be helpful for you to decide what to offer them, would be under your control. But it, of course, takes more money to do this. So you could use off-the-shelf platforms like Amazon or Shopify. And they create all the carts and they collect the money for you and all that, but they're gonna obviously do it for a fee. So what a lot of people do is they get started on one of these platforms, and then if they get big enough, they could create, then maybe they have money to create their own websites and have their own customers, and maybe give them a discount if they go directly to you rather than going through Amazon. And so you can kind of start with this one and then head to this one maybe a little bit later on. Okay. So before launching an e-business, you might want to set up a social media profile like Facebook, Twitter, whatever happens to be popular, where people go looking up your products. You might want to be in those markets too. Get your email marketing ready, so you want to build up a list of email addresses that you might want to send, hey, we're opening up our products, and we're opening up a website, come shop here. You could buy these email lists from other companies that have data about people. Say, give me a bunch of email addresses of people who might want to buy socks on the internet, and then you could send out an email to them. And then you could, you could run your business through something like Shopify Store Grader, so it looks at your online site and tells you anything that you might be missing. And as new things are important, they'll add that to what they're testing. So they're going to go to your website, they're going to test it to see if you have all the things you need. And it'll give you a report on what your website is missing. Okay, so after you launch your company, you have to market your store. And then optimize your conversations too, and this gets to be an issue if people start complaining about products. You have to have your customers who think positively, have their comments, have your customers who are very happy, make comments on your website, and then expand and refresh your inventory. So those end up being important once you start, if you launch your company. So just to give an idea of, these are statistics from U.S. government, but in the United States, in 2016, there were 320, that's actually 320 billion in sales. Sorry, I gotta put a B there. 322 billion, and expected worldwide to hit 4 trillion by 2020, the amount of money being sold, amount of goods being sold on the internet. Okay, so then some of the advantages, this is now from a macro level, not from advantages to your business, but you could sell internationally, easy to showcase products using pictures and descriptions and testimonies from previous people who bought the product. You can personalize the shopping experience using data science. It's easy to encourage impulse buying. That's what you've seen, that way you buy something or you put something in your cart and then right away you get a message, people who bought this also buy this. You buy this book, you might like this book too, right? So you've seen that, so that's kind of impulse buying. Someone might be in the middle of shopping, oh yeah, I forgot I need one of those too. And retargeting customer is easy to do, looking at their shopping history. So you could say, if somebody buys something maybe once a week, after 2 weeks they didn't buy it, you might say, hey, you might want to buy this. You might be running out of these things. And then high volume is not a problem because there's no cashiers, there's no lines. So you ever go to a store, you want to buy something, and then the line is so long, you say, I'll come back later, and then you end up not coming back later, right? So those are some of the advantages. E-commerce disadvantages, can't shop when the site is down. So it's very important to make sure your website stays up. Can't try anything on before you buy it. So is this a problem? I'm kind of curious now. Is this a problem like with clothes, buying clothes on the internet? Because you can't try them on?
You can return them if they don't fit.
Yeah, so is that, I haven't done that. So you buy clothes, you try them on, and you mail them back,
Yeah.
try another one, it's no good.
In the box, they give you like a seal to place on it, so you can mail it back.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I guess that's one thing, kind of like going into a store and trying something on. But I guess that's, that's where it's going, so. Another big problem is it's highly competitive, right? So if you own, the only hamburger store in a certain town, people in that town want a hamburger, they gotta go to you, right? You're the only one there. Now, everybody is everywhere. You start selling, like I say, socks on the internet, and somebody over in Germany starts selling socks on the internet, you're now competing with them.
Yeah.
As soon as that website starts, you have competition. So it's very highly competitive. The other thing that becomes difficult is answering customers' questions. So if you go into a store to buy something, you could say to the salesperson, hey, does this come in blue, or your inventory's out, but when is the next shipment? You can ask people, it's hard to ask a website. You ever go shopping and they have like a live person, a little window pops up? Do you have any
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah,
And did they answer?
yeah, they do.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Yeah.
So you say, you know,
I mean, they usually have like a customer service number also in case like they don't.
oh, you
have-
could call up?
Yeah, you can call.
Okay, but that's kind of when you're first starting off a business, it's hard to do that because you have to hire these people.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of grow into that. That comes a little bit later when you start making some profits. So yeah, at least initially, it's tough to answer customers' questions. The other thing is you have to ship the products, so you don't really have a big control over the orders coming in. You know, if you had your own like store where people would walk in and buy stuff, if you started building up a lot of shipments you have to make, you can kind of tell people, oh, it's gonna be a while before we can take your order or something like that. Whereas online, you're just booking orders. And then also, you have to worry about the data's, your customer's data security. Because you're on a web server, people can hack into your system and get your customer's data. So that can end up being a problem. Okay, so can you lower that shade? Thanks. I think you have to pull the chain. I mean, you pull it like, yeah, okay. So, okay, suppose so this is kind of like a simple example out of a finance class. Suppose you lived at a place where the interest rate is 5% per year. Like if you put your money in the bank, you would get 5% per year. This is just for an example. And it's gonna be that way forever. It's gonna always be 5%, year after year after year. Just hypothetically go along with this. And suppose you had something that guarantees you $50,000 per year forever, right? Then the question is, and it costs nothing to own this thing. It's not like you don't have to pay gas or electricity, you don't have to pay anything. If I was to ask you, what is this thing worth? It's something that keeps generating, every year it keeps generating $50,000. What is it worth? Well, you would take the $50,000 and you would divide it by 5%. So this is 5% of what? It's 5% of $5 million. So if you put $5 million in the bank, every year it would generate $50,000. No, not 5 million, right? It would be what, 1 million? Yeah, it'd be 1 million, right? 5% would be $50,000, right? It would be 1 million. So let me change that. I'll change it right now. Okay, so, no? Okay, all right. So let's pretend this did it wrong. Hold on. One, right. Okay, so that would be worth $1 million. So if you had $1 million and you could gain 5% of interest per year, you'd put it in the bank and it keeps generating $50,000 every year. So if I said to you, what was that thing that's generating this much interest, what is it worth? It's worth $1 million. So if you sold it to somebody, you would sell it for $1 million. If you had this box that keeps generating $50,000 a year, that thing is worth $1 million. Because someone could then take it and they could put it in the bank and get $50,000 a year. Now suppose it costs you $40,000 to operate this thing. So let's say you had a website that's generating $50,000 in profit, but it costs you $40,000 to operate. So it's only gaining $10,000 in profit. So now it's only worth 1/5 of that, $200,000. Okay. What if it costs $50,000 a year to operate? So it costs you $50,000 a year to operate this thing, and it brings $50,000 back, so you're just breaking even every year. So what is this thing worth? It's not worth anything. It's giving you nothing in return for your investment. So you can see there's a big difference in, it's how much profit minus how much the cost is, whatever that is, calculated against what if you just put the money in the bank and gained interest on it, or invested in bonds. You know, you could get into more fancy stuff in a financial course. But anyway, just to give you an idea of what something's worth. So when they evaluate, when, you know, Wall Street analysts evaluate companies, they do it a few different ways. One way is to take the current stock price and multiply it by the number of shares, and that's what the general public thinks it's worth. That's one evaluation of a company. Another one is how much profit does it make per year? And divide that by the interest rate, and that'll give you what it's worth. Well, e-businesses really could never be evaluated like this, because there's no interest rate that remains constant, but the amount of profit and the amount of cost to run it are constantly changing. This is a simple example in a world where nothing moves. But e-commerce, everything's moving, every month things are moving. So you really couldn't follow this pattern. It's just good for, for us to kind of know. So there's many, many different ways to evaluate a company. Like Amazon actually doesn't make a profit, right? You guys know that? So it's like one of the, the owner's one of the richest people in the world, but it's still not making a profit. But it's expected to. And even Tesla cars doesn't make a profit, but the stock's doing well, right? So you want to ask yourself, are there different ways that we can evaluate an electronic business? And there's different indicators we could look at to see, if you're, so in other words, if you're creating a company, even if it's not making a profit, you might be able to sell it to somebody who sees it's about to start making a profit soon, and they're going to be looking at things like these items. They might look at how many monthly unique visitors do you have. You have the same people coming back and forth, which means you're not growing. Or do you have new people coming? And this would be now, you'd have to create your own website to do this. If you're on Amazon.com, they know how many people are logging into Amazon, but nobody's logging into you. So this way you'd have to have your own, your own system. And then the conversion rates are important. How many people sign up compared to how many people visit? If everyone looks at your site, because it's a nice website and everyone's talking about it, and then they go to it and nobody joins it, that's a bad sign. So how many sign-ups happen per visit rate? The bounce rate, visitors who click the back button, they go to your site and then they go back to where they came from. Average order value. So you can have lots of customers, but if they're not buying a lot of stuff, it might not have potential for growth, where average order value is going to mean a lot. Then the monthly active users, how many people log in and stay on the site for a while. So this one, in conjunction with the first one, unique visitors, is interesting. If you have customers who come and stay for a while, that's very good. And how many unique customers you have. If these two numbers are both high, that's going to add a lot of value to your e-business. The average revenue per user is another thing too. If that's very high, that's good, because if the average revenue per user is high and then your conversion rate's high, that means more customers are coming and they, on average, spend a lot of money. So a lot of the valuation of your company might be based on combinations of these things in this list. The monthly recurring revenue, the MRR. So that would be subscription. So this would be things like Amazon Prime. Any of you do Amazon Prime? So you buy it once a year, right?
Yeah.
And are you like signed up for auto pay? Like it'll renew you?
Yeah, they have an option for that.
Right, so they want to know how, how many customers are signed up to just keep renewing a service over and over. I mean, obviously you can log in and say, I want to stop now.
Yeah.
But how many just say, oh, not only do I like the service, I'm going to pay for it, not indefinitely, but over and over in the near future. I like the product. So how many subscriptions you have would mean a lot to the value of your company. The revenue run rate, so the monthly revenue times 12. So you might think, well, why don't I just look at the last 12 months and that'll tell me how much I earn a year. But it's actually because these businesses are changing so quickly, they'd rather look at the last month and multiply that by 12 as a guess for what the next year is going to be. Stuff from 2 through 11 months ago, they're not even looking at that, because that's like, your model may have changed so much that it becomes irrelevant. And then your burn rate is how much cash you're losing. This is kind of shows up at the beginning when you're first creating your business. How much money you're spending and how fast you're spending it. So if you're buying, hiring programmers and buying computers and renting out space for everybody, you want to know how much money you're spending per month or per year. To see that's the rate at which you're losing money compared to the potential for revenue coming back later. Okay, so now what's kind of interesting is, when you're creating an electronic business, you might think, well, if I'm going to create an electronic business, I'm going to be stuck my whole life working on this thing, right? Because maybe it takes 5 years to build it up to where it needs to be, and then you have to run it for a while and collect revenue and have it build a name for itself. But a lot of times, if you can just get one started, doesn't even have to make a profit, just get one started, and then say, okay, I'm in this for 2 years, it has the potential for growth, why don't you just buy it from me? And you can just sell it and then you're done, So you don't really have to spend your whole life building this business, you can just kind of get it started and sell it. So for example, do any of you remember, do any of you buy CDs, music on CDs, or do you buy them now, songs? You buy CDs? Where do you buy them from?
Online, Amazon.
Okay, so there used to be a website called cdnow.com. Does anyone remember that? No? All right, so the way I first heard about Amazon, I used to go to cdnow.com to buy CDs, music discs. And then one day I went to cdnow.com and it said, you're now on Amazon. We have your information, blah, blah, blah. I said, what is Amazon? I didn't even know what it was. But anyway, Amazon bought cdnow.com. So cdnow.com was a website that sold music CDs. That's it. Amazon was selling books. Then Amazon bought cdnow.com and converted all their customers to Amazon customers. Didn't even tell you. Next time you go to cdnow.com and log in, you're on Amazon. So that's how I became an Amazon customer. I didn't even join Amazon, I was just a member. So they ended up just buying the business and converted all the users over. So in other words, if you have an idea for an e-business, don't feel you have to spend 20 years of your life building it. You could just kind of get it started to the point where someone like the guy who owns Amazon would look at it and go, oh, that's a good idea, let me buy that. Gives you a check and you're done. So you don't have to build the entire business, just get it off to a good start. So general things that you want to look at when you're ready to sell your business is they want to see an aged site. They're hoping it's been running for at least 1 to 2 years, 12 to 24 months old. Predictable key drivers for new sales, so they want to be able to look at it and say, I think I can see in the future where this thing is going. Diversified traffic sourcing, traffic stats, so you could, it's one thing if you say, and this is something I think Facebook was accused of when they were first trying to build up the value, when they were originally considering selling the product, was saying, oh, I got all these users coming, but they had all the data themselves, so they could just say it. They could say whatever they want. Oh, I have 10,000 users a day. Where's your proof? But there are things like Google Analytics. You can put your website for them to watch how many people are logging in and out, and they'll keep an account. We're hoping they'll be honest, and then they could give you statistics on your on the traffic into your website. And then brand with no trademark, copyright, or legal concerns. So you want to try to avoid that kind of stuff when selling. So for example, something like that example I was saying, cdnow.com, when they were bought over by Amazon, all of a sudden that those trademark and copyright stuff had to be converted over to Amazon. And engage in growing mailing lists and clear growth potential. So these are things in general, when you're building your website or building your e-commerce business, you want to show that you can do this. Your business will keep doing this. And then somebody might be very interested in buying it. From a financial point of view, you want to show a history of stable and growing revenue. Actually, it doesn't really have to be stable. It would just be nice if it was growing. But a history of stable and growing revenue. So you don't want to have months where it tanks, your website's tanking in revenue. 'cause then they're gonna wonder, is it gonna happen again and again? So they'd like to see a high percentage of repeat customers, because they don't want your website to be just some kind of a fad that's going away. A bunch of customers bought off your website and then they're not coming anymore. Repeat customers are always a good sign from a financial point of view. And then diverse revenue base, no one product is making up 100% of your sales, because that means that that one product starts to become unpopular. That could be the end of your website. And then maybe a growing niche in the industry. So is there something that your e-business provides that maybe the world didn't have before, and you're getting into the niche of that part of the industry? Strong gross profits on margins would be nice. So that's where we're looking at how much money is coming in compared to how much money you're spending running this business. That's your profit margin. And then low physical stock and cash requirements. So it'd be nice if this thing, if someone wants to buy your business, it would be nice if they thought, well, I don't need a lot of money to keep running this. Then, when you're selling your business, from an operational point of view, like to see streamlined and scalable systems and processes to be in place, proven warehouse, drop ship, fulfillment of orders, that you can you can show that you can handle this. Proven team in place, so it'd be nice if your team, if it was in place for a year or two, that you have the same employees, you're not changing your employees, so that's important. And then use of software that can track sales is sometimes good, like something like Salesforce is a popular tool. It's very expensive, but it's a popular tool that you could use to track orders. Strong relationships with established suppliers with backups in place. So you don't want to take orders from people and then have to tell them later, we can't deliver the product that you ordered. Okay. And then, if you wanted to sell your business, where do you put a sign up, right? If you owned a store and you wanted to sell it, you put a sign in the window, for sale, business for sale. And people walk by and they might want to buy it, but this is on the internet, so where would you put your sign? Well, there's websites like the Shopify Forum and Flippa, Warrior Forum, website brokers, and We Buy Websites, which is actually a private equity company. You could go to these and put your business up for sale, and people might want to buy them. Private equities are actually where they're not being bought by someone like, the owner of Amazon. This is people investing private money who want to buy websites. Let's say they want to buy your website that you're starting up. Their goal is to buy it, hire people who will improve it, and then sell it to someone else and make a profit that way. That's more for private equity customer. So about 85% of e-commerce businesses sell within 60 days, assuming it was good business. But you could put them on these, and within about 60 days, you have a reasonable 5 out of 6 chance that your business would sell. So yes, selling is not that hard. Okay, and then the last two slides are just kind of legal things that you could think about. So different things that come up legally is if there's any function your website does, the way you handle a shopping cart, people can put things in a cart, leave them in there for a month, or you take things out of the cart, whatever rules you come up with on how your e-business operates. If there's anything that is some kind of intellectual property, you could get patents for it, or you could get intellectual property rights for it, and have your source code protected. So this is just kind of some legal things you might want to keep in mind. This might be, a little bit later on down the road, you might want to have someone, a lawyer, look over your business to see where your intellectual property, the value of your, some of the things that you're implementing, somebody could see it on the website and they could take your ideas. So we'd like to protect that too. So. Okay, so just a little introduction on e-commerce businesses. And like I say, you don't wanna have to if you have an idea for an e-commerce business, you don't wanna think that you have to build it all the way start to finish before you start seeing the profits to it. You can build the first 25% of it and get it into a position where someone will look at it and go, oh, I'll take it from here and I'll finish it. Or even like those private equity companies, I'll take it at 25% and I'll bring it up to 50% and then I'll sell it to someone else. So you don't have to actually finish the business, you just have to get the idea down, you know, get intellectual property rights on anything that's peculiar about your business, and then just sell it. So, or hang on to it if it becomes really profitable, take the profits yourselves. Okay.